everybody. David and Erik here from Team Powerhouse, the PowerCast, live Tuesday nights.
Real estate.
Very excited. A real estate podcast with some little extras for you tonight. Very excited. Got a very special guest. His name is Chris Glenn. He's extremely knowledgeable in the tastings of bourbon and whiskey, and we're going to get into him in about 2 minutes. First, I just want to make sure you guys are all watching us and knowing how to get in touch with us and all the different places you can find us. All right, so YouTube, go to Team Powerhouse Real Estate, type in Team Powerhouse Real Estate, hit subscribe, become another one of our subscribers. Go to Twitch, go to Spotify, listen to us on the ride home from work. If you are right now, we appreciate you very much, and we're excited to have you here today. You can always watch us later on replay as well. We're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, Team Powerhouse Real Estate, Instagram, Apple Podcast. We're everywhere.
I don't know.
And we're excited to be here for you.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Glenn,
Sure.
a local man from Cheshire, Connecticut,
Yep.
who I've known since 2008, moved on to his street. He is my neighbor across the street and introduced me to the world of alcohol.
Not about that.
Bourbon, Scotch,
You
whiskey.
didn't know anything about alcohol before meeting Chris?
I would say to you, not as well as I began to know things together, because he's very well versed in the bourbon, Scotch, whiskey category. And that was a lot of fun getting to know Chris, having fun, watching the UFC fights, playing back in the day. What was the video game she would play all the time? We used to play PlayStation, UFC games, have a lot of fun together. So we got to kind of like learn about different kind of alcohols, but more in a, I think, a enjoying manner without education, as much as we've learned over the last 10 to 12 years. I would say we learned a lot.
Alcohol and PlayStation?
And then your hands, of course, with the machines and everything else was very exhausting. Very exhausting, but we always had a good time. So today on the show, we're going to have 5 different Scotch whiskeys for us to talk about. I'm sorry, whiskey bourbons. How about that? Whiskey and bourbons. And we're actually going to talk about the difference between a Scotch whiskey and a bourbon with Chris here today. So Chris, now Erik, how do you know Chris?
Chris's son and my son played football.
That's right.
And I coached both of them unsuccessfully. So,
You did a good job.
yeah, I did okay.
Very cool. So having Chris with us today, we're going to talk about...
But we never drank together.
You never drank
We
together?
never drank.
Well, tonight
We've
starts...
not had a drink together.
This has been the first time.
Wow.
We are having for the first time live Erik Vasquez and Chris Glenn enjoying a little bourbon.
It's an inaugural moment.
An inaugural moment. So listen, if you have any questions, by the way, about Scotch, whiskey, I'm sorry, I keep saying Scotch.
That's all right.
Whiskey and bourbon. We're going whiskey bourbon today. Whiskey bourbon. All right. So if you have any questions about whiskey and bourbon, please don't hesitate to reach out. Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. Chris is a pretty knowledgeable guy, and we're going to get to it in about 30 seconds. So first, let's talk about some questions. How did you get involved in this category?
I had a friend who was into Scotch and kind of got into that, and then started exploring the different Scotches that were out there, and then branched out into all the other whiskeys, so bourbon in particular. So.
Bourbon has unique flavors to them, and there's so many different kind of bourbons we're running.
There are, yeah.
From like just we'll get back into that, of course, too. All right, so this is a profession for you?
No, just a hobby. Yeah, I like the term hobby.
We are.
So you don't get paid for it?
I do not get paid.
Okay.
It's all volunteer work.
It's volunteer.
Let me just tell you again that Chris and I, actually I shouldn't say it, tell you again, I mentioned before on the show that I went on the Bourbon Trail, and Chris and I went together on the Bourbon Trail. We had an amazing time.
It was great.
We'll talk a little more about that as well.
Any photos?
There are some photos.
Okay.
I'm not
So
sure.
before and
They're all
afters?
fit to be published.
Yeah,
All fit to be published?
Yeah,
Every single one.
Yeah, they're definitely some good experience, a lot of fun.
Probably forgot to take pictures by the end of the night, right?
Maybe once.
Yeah, well, yeah. What is the difference between a bourbon and a whiskey?
All right, so a bourbon is a whiskey. Whiskey is the general term for any distilled alcohol from grains, basically. Corn, wheat, rye, barley. So bourbon, by law, has to be 51% corn, and then the remaining grains can be a mixture of whatever the distiller wants. Traditionally, it's rye and some malted barley. sometimes wheat's in there as well. And we'll talk about that with one of these as well.
That's pretty cool stuff. So, a recap. The way it becomes known as a bourbon is it has to be 51%.
51% corn in the ingredients, basically. And it has to be made in America.
Pretty cool stuff.
If you take
But
the
it doesn't
same,
have to be made in Kentucky though, right?
no, that's a popular myth.
Right.
Anywhere in the United States.
Although, like 95% of bourbons are made in Kentucky. Is that true?
I think the numbers dropped a little bit lately. There's been quite a boom in new distilleries popping up all over. But the vast majority do come from Kentucky.
Last week.
Erik, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. I gotta call you back.
I'm calling it moonshine for now. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
get the ingredients down.
That was good. That was good. All right, so let's talk about the first. What's the first one we're gonna try tonight, Chris?
I'd say we're going to try the Elijah Craig first.
Elijah Craig. Now, while we're trying to Elijah Craig, where's Elijah Craig made, by the way? While we're kind of talking about it.
In Kentucky.
Yeah. Very cool.
3 of the 4 bourbons here are from Kentucky.
Very nice. Chris will do the honors in pouring them for us.
Sip. That's good. Thank you.
Because we're going to be trying a few, we're not going to go all out in the beginning with these pours, because in a tasting, it's typically a half ounce roughly
Half-ounce, yeah.
Pours, and it's all about, well, Chris, walk us through the
It's not about
process.
partying. We're not
Right.
in college.
This is true.
Try to enjoy it, explore the different flavors and aromas that are in each different brand.
Good to clear the palate with a little water first before getting to the whiskey,
Yep.
the bourbon. So, Chris, tell us about this first one over here. How would be the proper way to address this deliciousness?
Well, if you're doing a tasting, usually you want to try to appreciate like the aromas, so you want to smell it. You don't want to just jam your nose in there. It's going to be pretty high alcohol content and you'll burn your nose right out. So you want to approach it kind of slowly. Take a long, slow breath as you get closer. You'll notice when you get too close.
From what I remember when we were there, if you smell it with just your nose, and then if you open your mouth and then smell it, you have 2 different smells.
Yes. Yeah, you get the air rotating through your
Through
your
I
nose.
taste that on my tongue when I.
Open your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the true way to try a bourbon. And before trying it, is to actually put it to your nose first. You smell a lot more alcohol content. It's kind of whoa. And then if you open your mouth up, and you start to smell the sweetness, the sugars, and the different pieces of the puzzle.
This is a pretty sweet
Cheers.
one.
All right, we're gonna try Elijah Craig for the first time.
Oh, what have I already tried it?
First time together.
That's sharp.
Okay. What do
That's
you get?
sharp for me.
It's actually very sweet if you think about it. Now, here's what happens. When you first put it in your mouth, in my experience, is that it's a little burnt at the beginning and then it's sweet at the end, at the aftertaste. Erik, what would you say your experience was?
I don't know. It's kind of sharp. Quick burn on the tongue. Is it supposed to burn the tongue?
That's the alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you take this,
Maybe
Erik,
maybe my tongue is too clean.
if you take this and put this in your mouth and hold it under your tongue for about, I don't know, 10 seconds,
Just
it actually will begin to start to taste all the sugars from the bourbon in the flavor.
Now, there really are no sugars in there, but you get the sweetness from the different chemical alcohols that are in there.
Now, this one here, we talk about how much wheat, how much corn, how much barley as well. Let's go back into the whole barrels. So, Chris, where do they make barrels?
Pardon me. There's several cooperages that make barrels.
Cooperage is a place that makes the barrels.
Yep.
Great piece of information.
A couple of big ones in Kentucky.
Cooperage.
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 A cooper makes barrels.
Okay.
So, what are the barrels made from?
They, by law for bourbon, they have to be made out of oak. Usually that comes down to white oak. It's just one of the more common oaks that are out there, and it also just happens to work really well with it for aging.
Is there a location where the wood comes from that kind of differentiates the difference in the wood in the bourbon? Like if oak from California versus oak in Illinois.
I'm sure there
That's
is.
a great question.
I don't know. Actually, I believe Buffalo Trace has been doing some experiments with that.
Mhm.
That's right. They were
Because I
talking
mean,
about that.
you know, the trees, like you got the soil difference between Illinois,
Yeah.
California, Mexico.
Yeah.
Can you use a farm wood?
Can you
It's gotta be
support
more.
it? That's a great question.
That
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards no, but I'm not.
I'm gonna call the bourbon
100%
authorities and
confident on
find
that.
out.
If it has to be American wood.
American wood, yeah.
Very interesting question.
We have a question from Pat Pagano. He asks,
Pat Pagano's got a question for us, everybody.
what's the oldest bourbon that you've come across?
The oldest one that I've come across would be probably the Pappy,
Oh,
either the 23 or the 25.
Yeah. We actually tried that at a bourbon tasting about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was at Hartford we went to. That was an interesting evening, to say the least.
Yeah.
A bourbon tasting where they had maybe, I don't know, every vendor in the state or like the country.
There was over 100 tables.
Yeah, it was insane. And basically going from table to table, getting 1 ounce pours to the point where it was more than 1 ounce pours, and you begin to forget who you are and what you were drinking. It was an interesting evening.
And my wife drove us, so we were responsible.
She definitely
Always
drove
drink
us.
responsibly, people.
And
Yes.
and it was a very smooth ride home all the way through.
You slept
You're
through it,
lucky
you don't
she's not here to
remember.
comment on it.
That was a rough night, a rough drive home. All right, so the barrels being made, the barrels make a huge difference on the flavor. Now, when they char the barrels,
Yep.
and how do they char the barrels?
They actually shoot flames right up through it.
Is
And
there?
there's different char levels,
Yeah.
so the amount of time the flame is in contact with the wood. Usually they use a barrel char number 3 or 4, which, if I remember right, is like 40 seconds to 60 seconds.
Which also has a lot to do with the flavor that it produces in the actual bourbon,
Yep.
because the charness of the oak, as well as the mash, or
What the ingredients
the
are.
ingredients
yeah,
are,
mash
and,
bill.
and it sits there for the 3 years, makes a big difference. You know, when we went to Bourbon Country, which I will tell you that if you've never done this before, Eric, we got to go together. We'll have such a great time just for a few days, because you can't go too long. There's so many different kind of distilleries to see in Kentucky, and what I'll tell you is you learn from like a different level of learning. You sit there, as we did with, we went to Buffalo Trace and Maker's Mark and Four Roses, and you get a chance to kind of learn the history of these bourbons. It becomes almost like a baby that you born, and you kind of have it, and you watch it grow, and you can enjoy it in a different kind of way. And I'll say to you that when you go, for example, after they put them in the barrels, they put them in something called a rick house, right? When the rick house is a building, how old are these buildings? Actually, they make it.
Some of them look like they're 100 years old.
Yeah, at least. And as you're walking through the building or past the building, you can smell. As a matter of fact, at Four Roses, I remember, and also Buffalo Trace, the difference in the building. You walk by the building, I remember Buffalo Trace, the first side, you could smell one thing, like almost like baked bread,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you walk by the next side of the building, and it would smell like corn. And you could see the black on the outside of the rick houses that was the mold.
It was a mold that feeds on the alcohol that's evaporating out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the most.
So it's intentional mold.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the most amazing.
It has a hobby too.
Yeah, it does have a hobby. It was pretty much a pretty amazing experience. There's so many things to learn and be a part of in this place. If you've never been to Kentucky,
Yeah, if you're into whiskey and bourbon in particular, you got to do the bourbon trail at some point.
and there's many places in Kentucky to go to, all over the part of the state where they have different distilleries. Some that are well known and some that are not known at all.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. Eric, real estate.
Real estate. So earlier I mentioned that there was some information for some it's going to be good news and for some it's going to be bad news. So with the interest rates going up, what's going to happen is more than likely at some point, if it isn't already, it's going to be at or above 5%. Okay.
Definitely.
Which is going to kind of price certain buyers out of the market.
This is true.
Which is going to decrease the number of buyers that are out there.
This is true.
So on the good side, if you're good with everything the way it is and it hits 5% and you're still moving forward, know that the buyer pool or the competition that's going to be out there for
It's
you
going to start to shrink.
is going to shrink. So instead of going up against 12, 15 offers, you might be going up against 4 or 5.
Or 8 or 10.
Or 8 or 10.
Yeah, you're
Right.
definitely going to see it. I
But
definitely agree with
on
you.
the flip side, there's a negative.
Right.
You know, there's going to be some folks who can't do the 5%.
Right.
You know, they can't do the 5% and everything else.
And then again, speaking on that, so one of the big things we've learned about from Michael Christopher from Guaranteed Rate, who's an amazing mortgage broker,
Affinity.
the Guaranteed Rate Affinity, he's amazing. And one of the things that they have available, if somebody's putting out 20%, they have this gap that they can actually allow 1% of the deposit of 20% to help allow you to basically go with a, what's it called? You're basically waiving the appraisal, and you're able to buy that house in a way that nobody else can buy in your competition, which gives you a lot of strategies. So things to learn about: 20% down buyers, you have a huge edge in this market that other people don't have. You become almost like a cash buyer. So definitely something we should talk about if you have any questions about how do I really make myself stand out against other buyers in the competition, right?
Yep.
Good point. All right, what is going to be the next one we're going to drink, Chris, for number 3?
So those first
That's
three were
probably going to be a bourbon, no? Okay, we're
Yeah.
going off bourbon.
Yeah,
We're
we
staying
changed
on
the
bourbon.
the first
Okay.
3 bourbons
Oh,
were all from
number 4.
Kentucky.
Yes.
Okay.
This one is actually local. It's Connecticut. Litchfield Distillery up in Litchfield. If you haven't been there, I recommend them. They make a nice little tour as well.
I have not been to Litchfield Distillery.
We'll have to
I think we definitely should go. 100%. I'd like to check it out. And the fact that it's a Connecticut bourbon,
go. Sorry.
in addition to that, makes it a little bit.
You did that on purpose.
It slipped, I promise.
He's not slurring his speech yet, so he's fine.
What are we shorted over here? Everybody gets a little something like that.
Oh, boy.
I'm just curious what's going on over here. That's good. Yeah, half of it's on the table, Chris. You know. All right,
That's the
so
pressure of being live.
live
Can't
on the
edit
air.
that out.
So this is the Litchfield Distillery.
Litchfield Distillery. It's a 5-year age statement, so it's been in the barrels minimum of 5
Statement?
years. The age statement. Yeah,
Okay.
that's just the hobby term.
Gotcha.
Oh, this is a nice light one.
So it's
too.
all Connecticut grains. So this is Connecticut from grain to glass.
So what about the corn?
Corn
From Connecticut?
from Connecticut.
Really?
Connecticut corn.
Okay.
That's really cool.
I didn't know we grew corn, and I didn't know how much we grew that we had enough to make this much bourbon.
We make enough for that, apparently.
And
Look at there.
in Litchfield County, they might have
Well, I've
much.
not independently verified this, but I'm believing them. That they're not lying to me, at least. So.
Gotcha.
All right, everybody. So we have in front of us the Litchfield. Bourbon.
Litchfield. It's just called Litchfield?
Litchfield Distillery. This expression is the
Litch-
double-barreled bourbon whiskey.
Okay, so double barrel means
Similar
so
to
it's this one.
Similar process, yep.
Okay. And how many years? 4?
5.
5. So this is is it 5 years in the first barrel and then a couple months in that? What's the
Probably 4.5. We might guess 4.5 to 5 in one barrel, and then they put it in a second barrel for a significantly less.
You're gonna
amount of
taste a
time.
huge difference in this barrel of this bourbon. It's almost got. Actually, you tell me what you taste.
There may be older whiskey in there as well. Everything has to be at least 5 years old.
Wow, that was a major difference in the way they taste over here to me.
I get a lot of corn on this one,
Oh yeah, definitely having the corn.
and they don't give me a breakdown of what percentage it is, but it's probably pretty high.
You try it yet?
No. Well, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what taking is one shot necessarily. You can take a sip at it first. That thing, I think when you're drinking it so fast, it's getting that
I'm
much
not an
more.
aficionado. I don't know these.
Then when you drink it so much so fast, it get a lot of burn right now, or is it less burning now?
No, let's burning now.
Okay, good. So what did you?
My tongue is numb at this point with the alcohol that's absorbed. So
They're very small pours.
They have very small pores. So
Yeah.
what did you notice a difference on this one here?
smoother. There was that Cornish kind of flavor. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Almost a popcorn.
Yeah. More
Yeah.
flavor butter. That would be
Yeah, the
awesome.
butter flavor, very
Right
good.
now I get the munchies. Great. Now I want Orville Redenbacher's movie theater butter
Oh
popcorn.
my god, that was awesome.
I really should try this with some vodka because it's really good. It's not really vodka, guys. I'm just kidding. It's gin.
All right. So the foreclosures in real estate are just not there. People are looking for the foreclosure market. And here's what's happening, guys. The market right now with any bank, first of all, there's no foreclosures at all in what they're doing.
Don't forget to finish on that, but don't forget, because you brought up a really good point about the probate courts being backed up.
Yes.
And the number of probate houses that are out there right now.
So right now you've got no foreclosure properties out there. Rarely will you see one, because the banks, what they're doing right now, they're taking the inventory of properties that they've had, and they're actually taking them and fixing themselves up and actually selling them for a very good price. If you see a property that is completely hammered out and it does just disrepair, maybe that's a foreclosure property, and with that, most people can't get a mortgage on this kind of property, so it would only be a cash buyer. But it's far few between. But with that being said, I was talking to Erik earlier today that you've seen more homes that are probate sales more than ever before, because the last 2 years the courts were closed because of the whole COVID situation going on. And now you have properties that are being sold that are probate properties, which means that there's no disclosures on those properties, which means that there's no information as to what has been going on or the history of those homes.
Yeah, so the sellers passed away, and either the whoever's in charge of the estate doesn't have the information. They can't legally fill out the information saying how old the roof is, how old the equipment is, because they don't know.
That's right.
They weren't residents of that house, so they can't say what it is.
Which is why it's so important for a realtor to be very educated in looking at a house and identifying problems as much as you can. The more homes a realtor has experience in selling, and over the years, it's going to make them more educated for you as a buyer. Because in today's market, most buyers are waiving inspections. But before waiving inspection, how comfortable are you with doing that? And that has a lot to do with the realtor you're working with that might help you, educate you in the house, looking at a roof, looking at a window, looking at mechanicals. Because Erik and I sell so many homes a year, we're able to go through so many inspections in the past years to help you become more educated.
Yeah, the folks that I've worked with that we've either waived inspection or did inspection for information purposes only, it's only because we felt we knew everything there was to know about the house prior to the inspection.
Right.
So we kind of knew what was going to come up in the inspection. That's the only way that I would feel comfortable suggesting that for my client.
Absolutely. And if it has a septic or a well, you definitely should do a septic or a well inspection for sure. Again, you can do an inspection on a house for informational purposes only.
Depending on the age of the house.
Depending on the age of the house.
I mean, if it's a 15-year-old build and a septic, I don't know.
Yeah.
15 years?
I mean, I would agree with you, except from what we've learned, it's still possible there could be challenges there. So if you want to do a septic or well test, it's okay, probably expected, but you can still put as is on the purchase agreement.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you want to make sure is that the laundry is not shooting out into the.
That's right. Your laundry cannot be going into your septic tank.
And the water, especially if you have water treatment.
Yes.
And you have water softener.
Yes.
Okay.
You have a separate drywall.
You have separate. Well, there's I forgot what, backwash.
Yes.
So there's a line. There's a really thin tube that goes from the well tank out from the treatment, and that will disintegrate
a septic tank.
The septic tank in 1/3 of the time that time will.
So it's very important to make sure you understand your property.
You have a well, right?
No.
Yeah, Chris is like, I'm going to my well.
Well, Chris is City Water, City Sewer. I know that for sure.
Yeah, he's across the street from you. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. But again, you want to be as educated as possible. Make sure you have a good realtor working for you. Do your research on your realtors, whether you're working with a buyer's agent or seller's agent. Read reviews on them. Educate yourself as much as possible, because you know what's going to happen. It'll help you feel more in your heart and mind that that's the person working for you. People love to write reviews, and we appreciate our clients who write reviews about us. The reviews tell a story about the history of that agent and what you're going to expect to get from them. And you should be able to get in touch with your realtor very easily with their cell phone. If your realtor is not responding by cell phone, I would say to you, get rid of that realtor. That's my point. Anyway, we're going to go to the fifth one and final bourbon.
It's not a bourbon.
That's right. Yeah. Try to put a sneaky on you.
Sneak attack.
So just a quick recap. Bourbon is an American beverage, specialty drink.
Yes.
And you can't make bourbon in Canada, can't make it in Europe, can't make it anywhere else except for in the United States.
Do they make it but call it something different?
Actually, some Irish whiskeys are made in a bourbon style.
Okay.
I'm sure there's others, but I didn't know of two there.
So they're okay over there, by the way, on social media, by the way, just making sure we are still good. Okay, sorry, go ahead. My apologies.
So most people are aware of Scotch. Scotch is another kind of whiskey.
Yes.
Basically has to be made in Scotland, and it usually, a single malt Scotch is made of strictly malted barley, so there's no corn, no rye. The single part of the single malt just refers to the fact that it comes from one distillery. So now there's a growing category called American single malt.
American single malt whiskey.
So the single, again, refers to one distillery. It's not taken from two distilleries and blended together.
Like a Johnny Walker.
Yes, that's a Scottish blended whiskey.
Yeah.
And again, it's made from 100% malted barley. So there's no corn, no rye, no wheat in this. But it is like I said, a growing category, and it's really rapidly become one of my favorites. This is from Virginia.
Oh,
Virginia Distillery Company. They call their flagship brand the Courage and Conviction.
And one thing I can tell you is that with Chris, before we got here tonight, had to go through leaps and bounds to find this. It's not something that everybody carries, which made it actually pretty cool. By the way, I just want to put a shout
Does
out.
that mean he's not leaving it with us?
Probably not leaving it. But I want to give a shout out to our friends at Premier Wine and Spirit in Cheshire.
Premier Wine and Spirit.
Ron and Donna, who are amazing people. They are the love and care of their business. You want to support them. They're extremely knowledgeable. They're extremely caring. They love you. They will take care of you. They'll get you what you want. They'll go up and down, left and right for you. Definitely check out Premier Wine and Spirit in Cheshire. Just want to give a big shout out to them. They're such nice people. And Ron is extremely knowledgeable in the bourbon category. All right. Hope you guys are listening. My friends.
So let's have you guys try these.
Cheers.
I believe
Yeah,
you
go
going
to
We're
smell
on
it.
the next one over here.
I have to smell it first, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Ooh, nice.
It's a pungent smell.
I smell butter. I smell like a butter smell.
I like the expression that Eric made.
What do you say?
He said he called it pungent.
Pungent, really?
Yeah, it smelled like my septic system.
You think so?
Well, that's different.
Yeah, so it's
Very,
very different.
very different from a bourbon.
More like a scotch. To me. Or more like a whiskey, I guess, more than a bourbon, though. It's very light.
It's made in a Scottish style in that it's single pot still. It's not from a big column still like most bourbons are.
It tastes butter. Am I imagining? You think butter also?
I get a little bit of that. But it is a new
So it's got
category.
butter on it?
No.
So I can put it on my pancakes?
Probably put it on pancakes, I don't know. There are several big distilleries out in America now that are making this style of whiskey. Virginia Distillery Company is one. Westland out in Oregon is another of my favorites. So
Very cool stuff.
It's going to be a new American alcoholic
Beverage to drink and try. All these notes over here to make sure I had asked about, Chris, we learned a lot today. I had an amazing time.
Bourbon or real estate?
I'm going to say strictly on the
Yes.
bourbon side of education. Because, it's nice to
Are we
have...
done with the real estate part?
I'm going to let you close... Actually, you want to close it out with some information that's very important.
No, well, I did have this one topic that I found interesting. It was with the gas prices going up.
Talk about it. Because
And
everybody
gas
wants to know
prices
about
going
it.
up and the impact on real estate, right? So it's funny because what folks are adjusting where they're buying based on it. So like, and obviously none of us know how long the prices are going to be where they are. So some folks had wanted to buy in a particular town. They said, well, now I have to live in this town because it's near Metro North, and they're taking Metro North to
That is a
visit one
very good point.
Some folks are actually buying closer to their work, so their commutes are shorter.
Interesting point.
Yes.
Very interesting point.
Yes, that's all stuff that I read on, the gas prices and the impact on real estate. So
That's a very good point. So, if you're thinking about buying a house, do you go closer to your work for less driving, right? Or do you buy a house near a train station because you commute to New York,
right.
if that's where you're going?
Yeah.
Very good point, Eric. Very good point. This was an amazing show. I had lots of fun. Chris Glenn, everybody. Big shout out to him and his knowledge. We really appreciate having you on the show tonight. You made your family very proud. You made your family proud. I know that you're
sure.
I know that your dad is watching.
You made Martin Hill proud.
I will tell you that, honestly, it's something that is really, really cool to learn about in an ever-growing industry of bourbon and whiskey. There's so many things to learn about. Again, if you haven't been to Kentucky, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a place you definitely want to check out. It's a lot of fun, great history, but more importantly, things to actually learn from how it's made and go through the actual experiences and then tasting something, and it just feels different when you're drinking it. There's just a connection you have with the actual alcohol. It's pretty cool stuff. I want to thank you all for being on the show, watching us. We have our last part of the show over here is who it's going to be.
Go ahead.
What?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're gonna
thank everybody for being on the show. So.
Watching the show, not being on the show, joining us here for the show. We have our tumbler giveaway. Who is going to be the lucky winner today of the tumbler? And one more thing I want to share with you. We have a gift card, or we have a giveaway for a lucky winner. Let me just mention the giveaway winner now for the actual car wash.
The detailing.
We had on the show Anthony from
A&T.
Yeah.
Yep.
His from his beautiful car wash place in North Haven over here. And the lucky winner is Nick Emmerling. Nick Emmerling, you won the gift card to get your car detailed at an amazing place in North Haven. Congratulations to you. And let's see who the lucky winner of the tumbler for this week is going to be. Jonathan on the spinner wheel. And the winner is... Pat Pagano!
Finally!
Hold on, he won already. I think he won already.
Did he win already?
Yeah, I think Pat Pagano won already.
He must have been one of the people who subscribed on 2 places.
He's a multiple subscriber. Pat, you can't win twice in a row. Okay, next person. He's going to be
Pat Pagano!
Just snatched away like that.
Noel Kaz wins the tumbler this week. Congratulations, Noel. We're going to have that mailed out to you. Thank you so much for being an amazing member and watching our shows every week. She's a great, great person. She used to be in Connecticut. She moved away. She's enjoying the sunny Florida and enjoying life down there as well. So thank you, Noel, for watching the show. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for joining us every week. Please remember you can watch the replay every week on Spotify. You can watch through Instagram, Facebook. Jonathan does a great job every Saturday. If you haven't seen tonight's show, you can watch the redo of this show. He edits it, makes it prettier, music and everything else.
Redo?
The redo.
Technical term for it?
I'm the edited, what?
There's no, we don't need to brush you out. You look good. You look fine.
Be more pretty.
You look fine.
Thank you guys so much for watching us here today and joining us on this amazing program with Chris Glenn, Bourbons, Whiskeys, and Real Estate.
And Erik.
And Erik Vasquez, the elite and the most amazing guy I could ever work with. All right.
He's not kidding.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
We'll see you soon.